Hello guys, this is Nikki, also known as Faces Trader, and you're watching the Awesome10X Philippine Market Update. Let's begin. It's February 17, 2021. It's a Wednesday. So let's start. All right, so the Philippine market today, actually, I think what's noticeable is the USD PHP. So let's first talk about this dollar peso. Your dollar peso actually spiked very huge. Take note that in just the last 2 days, your dollar peso has rallied from 48 bucks to 48.4. This is the highest that we've seen in over the last 2 to 3 months. From December all the way to January to February, the price has been quite stable at about 48.1, 48.2. But just recently, we actually got a huge bullish candle for your dollar peso, which might actually be a risk factor in the realm of stock markets globally. So a lot of you are aware that when the market had printed money since March 2020, you see this peso declining from 51 peso all the way to 48, or roughly around 3 pesos or 7 to 8% decline. So the reality is the dollar has not been strong, and that's because of the stimulus, which is in the realms of $6 trillion, and I think they pumped another $2 trillion into the global markets, such that everyone holding dollars felt that the dollar was losing their value because you were printing 6 trillion, $7 trillion. And that led to actually the stock market recovery. The cheap dollars actually made way to the entire world, whether it be in global assets and also it actually was the impetus for why a lot of your cryptocurrencies went up, because the fact that you cannot actually print the Bitcoin meant that some people felt that it was more of a stable asset rather than printing something that had no storage value. So you can see that US dollar peso went from 50 pesos here, 51 all the way to 48. And noticeably, when you're seeing something like that, is it happening also in other currencies? So your dollar yen, that means that your dollar yen has devalued somewhere in the realm of 110 all the way to 103. That was the strength. Some people, because you're weakening your dollar, would actually voyeur to get some dollar yen as their safety guide. So when yen is hitting 105, that means that from safety, you're seeing some unwinding. This is not me to tell you what's happening in the currencies, but you are seeing that the euro has been stronger than the dollar because of that massive printing. Take note that from March it's 108, now it's 122. Just by simply holding euros, you're already up. Just by simply holding pesos, actually through this, you're already up. So, because dollar peso here, the fact that dollar was devaluing against peso, your peso could actually afford, let's say your 48 pesos can afford $1,000 or 48,000 pesos, despite before meaning 50,000 pesos, tells you that the peso was strong, or rather, the truth of the matter is the peso was not strong. It was just the dollar being so weak. So the euro dollar here, the ascent of euros actually was not really about euros being really stronger, but the dollar was weak. And the weakness of the dollar led to the euro ascent. But as you could see here, looks like the euro has stopped climbing up, at least for the short term. You see that the euros has stopped rising to the 124 level, meaning the market is seeing that the dollar is not going to be as weak as perceived. This is the dollar currency index. If the dollar is really weak, it would have gone new lows, but you're seeing that the dollar is back to the 2018 levels here and has refused to stop going down. So what we are seeing right now is actually we could be in a trading range. So we don't necessarily have to reverse. The dollar will not necessarily stronger, meaning your dollar peso will not exactly shoot up to 50 peso overnight. But you're seeing that if the dollar has found the bottom, that means that your weak peso is actually, or your strong peso has already found the support. Meaning that 47.95 is your support area for your dollar peso. And it also means that your dollar is likely to persist. If you're asking me where will dollar go, where will the dollar peso go, Nikki? The maximum in my view, if the market's going to correct, is about 49.30. So from 48 to 49.30, that would be about a retracement of 50%. From this March areas of about 51, what's 49.30, 49.50, it's essentially 50%. You want to actually just retrace back to 49.50 It's not true that we're gonna have a persistently strong dollar. No, the trend is still weak dollar for the last 7 3. You can see naman for the last 3 years, the market has been really the dollar has been weakening, and what you're seeing is that okay, so we need some restraint from the market. The market in the US has been, keep going all-time highs. And so it has, why am I talking about this? Because it will translate in the entire world, not just in the US, but also in the entire Philippine market. Take a look at your emerging markets, your EMs. This is your emerging market ETF. So over the last couple of months, you're seeing that the March lows was $30 here, and then it's now 57. Meaning, most likely, if you've bought anything during March, you'd have been up 100%. That's just average. And if you look at the Philippine market, it was what, $20 here. It rallied to as high as, well, it never reached $40, but it reached something in the realm of $33 here. So that is your EPHE. I do think that this opportunity at 34 is more of a selling opportunity. So this is not really about me shorting, but it's really more of a shorting opportunity. So people would probably cover it, right? So if they sell 33, it's now 31. Where will they realistically buy it back? They're probably going to buy it back here at about 27 to 26. So when you're taking a look at these levels, you're seeing a range. You're not going to go to the $20 level of EPHE, meaning your PSEI is not going to go down to that 6,000 area. Below 6K. What you would see in the Philippine market is just a trading choppiness. So let's take a look at your Philippine market today. So right now, I'm using, of course, WealthSec Premier. So those who want to log in, open an online account with WealthSec, just go to premier.wealthsec.net. Here's what you get. Your PSEI right now is stuck in a trading range. In the last 5 years, this is what your PSEI is. You can't break 8,000 and you fell as low as 4,000. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that with the dollar actually strengthening, meaning the reprieve or the cheap dollars is not going to be there forever, it's going to be range. What you see here, the top is about 7,432, the low is 6,600. Chances are you can even go as low as 6,000. Now, I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm just giving you options like scenarios. So the scenario is, let's say we don't go 6,000. All right, we can also just stay stuck here. We're stuck here at about 6,2. The low of 6,2 is also possible support. We might not ever go down to 6K below. We won't go to 5,7 areas anymore. But can we actually rally? Can we break 6,6? That's the question. Because currently this 6,6 is your previous high here, which is 6,583. The previous high becomes the support here, but that support can actually get broken. So, and what's going to break your support at 6,600? Right now, your index at 7,000. You're thinking to yourself, all right, market value today is 19 billion pesos. You've got 82 advancers, 145 decliners. You've got foreign selling in the realm of 940 million pesos. So you've got 1 billion pesos getting away out from the Philippine market. And what are they selling? All right. These are the prices. You've got MPI 420, Robinson's Retail 58, Security Bank 129, Globe 2050, Mega World 391. FGen is trading at 30 pesos. Robinson's Land is 19.38. Emperador is 10. Aboit is far as 26.2. Your Jollibee is trading at 178.8. Your Pure Gold is 38.5. Your San Miguel Corp is 126. DMC 542. AEV is trading at 43.85. ICD is trading at 122. Bloomberry is 763. GD Gap is 562, AGI is 1058, AC 790, Luciatan Group is 1422, BPI is 8520, your Meralco is 288, URC is 140, PLDT is 1350, Metro Bank 48, JG Summit 66,770, Ayala Lands 3955, SM is 1060, BDO is 106, SM Prime is 3725. When you take a look at the Philippine market, it's quite obvious that we have a resistance. We're not hitting all-time highs. We don't have index movements here going all-time highs. You don't have any leadership. What you're seeing here is that the Philippine market is stuck in a range with the biggest kahunas. Your biggest kahunas are your SMs, your ACs, your SM Primes, Ayala Lands. They're stuck in a range. They're not breaking out. They're just stuck in that SM11. That's your resistance, right? When you see this resistance persisting, 1,100, 1,060, You know, 40 pesos is not a way to make money. 4%, you're waiting it for what? 40 pesos higher for it to sell at 1-1. What you want to see here is actually, since it's just consolidating, most of the money in SM has already shifted either in cash or they just wait it out. It's also possible that they're still there, but they don't know when it's going to break out. So similarly, your Ayala Corp is also in a wait and see mode. You can see that for the last, what, this is 3 years time, 5 years time, we cannot break above 960. We can't even break this 870. So really, in the next couple of months, the market is in a wait and see mode. So your SM and AC won't break out. Your SM Prime is also stuck in a range. Your 40 pesos is a resistance in the last 5 years. Your Ayala Land is also at the resistance, although you've got 47 here. It's a lower high here at about 40, 41. So even if it goes up, maybe Ayala Land one day can go 47. What's 7 pesos if it can also go down to 33? Meaning, your risk reward is 1:1. You either lose 7 pesos or you win 7 pesos. When you've got that risk reward not in your favor, chances are the market's just gonna leave. It could just leave to cash, that's one. Or it can just leave to possible bonds, that's also two. And people have been asking, well, Nikki, what do you think about this DD REITs? All right. I always said to people that all the REITs are just going to be not going to be 500% up. It's just 5%, 10% up. And that's what you are clearly seeing in Ayala REIT. So it went, what, 28 to 32, 34. But this one is actually, to me, more of a selling opportunity rather than a buying opportunity. Why? Because your Ayala REIT is not going to double. This is just going to give you dividends. That's it. Now, for some people, they want dividends. Okay. But for dividends, as you well know, you've got companies like this. So people are asking, Nikki, what do you think about PLC? Are they going to pay dividends? I think yes. They're going to pay maybe not 5 cents. If they paid 5 cents 2020 or 2019, perhaps 2021, we're not sure if they're going to pay 5 cents, but it could probably be 4 cents or 3 cents. Either way, some people would like to rest in this stock because the dividends will still appeal to them. Now, how about people buying up these telephone? Telephone, why is it stuck here at 1.4? It won't fall, it won't go up. Chances are it's at equilibrium. When you're in that equilibrium, people don't want to sell you so low. So if you can't get it 1.1 anymore or even at 1.12. Right now, you can't even get it at 1.2. It's just a low of what? 1.265. You don't see it going up. You don't see it going down. What you call these types of assets are actually what bonds are supposed to be, what supposedly the stable dividend yield plays are supposed to be. They're not there to make a lot of money, but they're there to just get ample cash flows, maybe 5 to 10% a year. And then maybe the range is just within 20% range from low to high. And that's really how it is. Like for a 1 year perspective, take note, or a 5 year perspective, you've got, perhaps this was an aberration at the 800, but where was the real low? At about 1,000. 1,000, and then where was the high? 1,480. So you've got that 50% range. 1,2, 1,350, you're gonna get some buyers because some people will not panic all the way to 1,000 or 1,1. It's very hard to get it at 1,2 areas. Now, let's take a look at some stable names. Given that you've got stability, what do you think is happening to Pure Gold and Robinson's Retail? Okay, they are what you call defensive industries. When you say defensive industries, the cash flows are just stable. You won't expect them to make 100% income growth, but they're not expected to lose 50% either because, as you well know, a supermarket is an essential good. So far in the last 5 years, you're seeing it just really stable, right? You don't go beyond 48 so low. You don't go beyond 35 so low. And neither do you go above 55 either. So it's been stock from about 38 all the way to about 48, perhaps a 10 peso range. Current price is at 38. It's more in the low end of zone in the last 5 years. So I'd say that it's still an opportunity to get in. Now, Robinson's Retail is also stable here at about 57, 58. You don't see it going down 50 bucks. Other people might say, well, couldn't it fall 44? Couldn't it go 55? It could, but that is a March area that I think is quite a low probability to happen. For it to go down to 45, it has to report something well beyond bad earnings. It's not like about the top shop closing down. So so far, I think like it's just people trying to just perhaps see that, okay, my money is low in the Philippines. And if they have a lot of these supermarket giants, they probably just want to leave the Philippines altogether. So let's take a look at your banks. Your banks are also a crucial percentage in your index. So the reason why your index is not going to go 8,000 is because your BDOs are stuck here below 115. If your BDO is stuck in a range from about 115 to maybe 90 pesos, what's the range? Is about 90 to 115 or about 25 pesos, 20 to 30% range. So that's what's happening in your BDOs. Your Metro Banks, the same thing, still stuck below 52, but of course, it's trying to, I don't think that you can get it at 32 to 35 anymore. So you've got a higher low here. That's your BDOs, that's your BPIs, Metro Banks, also stuck in a range. When you take a look at your index names, most people are actually just waiting and seeing because there's not much volatility, there's not much to do. And so when you take a look at the stats, top traded names in the Philippine market. Your top traded names are mostly non-index names. So you've got Dito, APL, PHA, BSC. Yes, it's in the downside. BDO is in the downside. Merrimart is in the downside. Asin is in the downside. Converge also in the downside. But take note, this is what? About 8 names, not index names. Only BDO here is an index name. And a lot of it is actually just on the selling prowl. Now, you could argue that SM1060, this is 10 billion, but this is perhaps just a cross. And there's nothing to do with SM, like 1060. Even if it goes up 1,100, is it going to go 2,000? Probably not. Is it going to go 500? Not, neither. So, yeah, it's just, I think what you're seeing in the market is that since there's really no volatility, they'd rather trade some volatile names. Take note what happened with Vol down 15%, 384 to $3. But then again, we did mention that Vol started where? 1 peso at the very least. If you were trading it, maybe you were buying here at 1 peso. Probably not the low of 70 cents or 80 cents or 50 cents, but you would have picked up 1 peso. You saw it already at 380. This drop is still just a drop that people are taking profits from. After they made a lot of money, this is an extended move from 380 all the way to 320. You sure can even go to 20, right? Because at the end of the day, people just want to take profits. They just want to go to cash. So what's happening with your FOS? Same thing, right? You saw this 320, another $3, could go to 160, but it's just a trading range. When you see a 100% trading range for other people, it's a buy low here and a sell high there. So that's really what's happening in Dito as well. This is already extended after extended. Even if 18 goes up to 20 pesos, what's the reward versus the risk of it going to 15 or 12? Assume you have Dito very low cost. Would you really risk your super duper outsized gains? I mean, at some point, I think people would actually profit take even if it goes down to 9 pesos or 10 pesos. Meaning, let's say 18, they'd rather just take profits now rather than see it go down to 9 or 10 pesos someday in the future. You know, what's your downside? It's already extended. You have to think about those things. Nicolasia, is it extended? Well, you could argue that this movement's here at about 550 or 6. The people who enter here at about 2 pesos can take profit all they want. They're probably just waiting it out because if they sell it at 550, they're not sure if it goes to 340 or 440. So it's really a chicken and egg question. Do you sell all your winners? Example, people are asking, well, Asen, what do you think? Should I sell this? It rallied already, 780, right? 7 to 8. What will I do with this? On the one hand, you want to actually preserve your shares, long-term mindset. But on the other end, if you sell somewhere in the 7 to 8 region, the reason why you're selling is not because you are too greedy. It's just, it can go 9 or 10, but at the same time, it can go to 7 below, right? So what I'm seeing here is really just people profit-taking. They don't know if they should hold. But so far, they see that there's no momentum, meaning it's just lazy already. And when the stocks are already lazy, they're just sleeping within a 6 to 8 zone. Some people don't want to be meddling in it. They'd rather have cash if the reward is just 10 to 20%. So what I'm seeing in the Philippine market is really the market already hitting a lot of resistances. We mentioned frothy names. The frothy names are giving up and the extended names are also giving up. You can clearly see it naman eh. Your top traded names, your Dito extended names, 1% down. But, APL has already fallen from 47 cents, now at 265. At most, it goes to 35 cents, 30 cents. I mean, even if it goes to 40 cents, the reward is not as appealing versus before. So your PHA has fallen from $3, your BSC fallen still from 140. So all of these are lower highs. Now your index names are lower highs. What else in the market still has a leeway to go at least all-time highs? All right. So from an all-time high perspective, you are seeing ATL is not an all-time high, so no. And then your CHP is not an all-time high. Your Double Dragon is not an all-time high. Your Lodestar, LODE. So I don't know about this, but so far it is strong. Extended na ba? Not well. Extended is a relative term. Some people would argue that it's not extended, it's just steady. 150 to 180, 5 years time. The entries would have been done here at 77 cents. So you're still up 100%. People are still going to hold on to this. One of the few names that they're probably going to hold, or they probably sold as well. And then they're just waiting it out. So, of course, it can go higher to 250. I don't know, can go to $3, right? At the end of the day, you're seeing that the market momentum is really waning down. So that's what I can see in the Philippine market. Now, let me read some questions today. Hi, in this year of the bull, I hope that the bull lasts the whole year. The answer is no. The bull market in the Philippines is not a bull market. It is a range. So the Philippine market is not a bull. It is a range. Is it advisable to buy Robinson's Retail even if some of the top brands are shifting to e-commerce? Well, so we already know that Robinson's Retail has a lot of supermarkets as well. They've got department stores. We know that the department store market has been dropping since last year. Like the specialty store, they mentioned already a 50% drop there. And the problem is not only with Robinson's Retail. It's worldwide. So you've seen every company, they needed to shift online aggressively. So with the top brands like Topman shifting to e-commerce and Robinson's Retail having to close it down, I think these are just inevitable truths. The question is, do I want Robinson's Retail at 58 pesos without the e-commerce, without those department stores? The answer is yes, because Robinson's Retail actually benefits more in cutting off what's dragging them down. Now, for most people, they might say, is it a bad thing that they had to close down the top shop stores? Actually, it's not a bad thing. If the market really benefits from just not having these stores open, you have less operating expenses. Now you could argue, oh, sayang naman the jobs, those risks worldwide. They will find a new job. Robinson's Retail will find a new way for these people who are displaced right now with this e-commerce movement. They could be working in some logistics front. They could be working in delivery front. I think personally, if a secular trend is there, it is inevitable to fight it. E-commerce is an inevitable secular trend. What can you say about Dito Extended? Do you think that Cebu is worth buying at price of 50, given that there's an upcoming offering of convertible preferred shares? I was trying to compute the cost, and it comes out to be around 43 per share. All right, let's discuss that. So I believe personally that Robinson's Retail did the right move to close down the shops. Now, for Cebu Pacific, no matter what you want to say, it's impossible to tell me that tourism in the Philippines is going to be zero. So how are they going to travel? Are we going to have flying cars? Maybe in the future, yes, but I think in the Philippines, we still need commercial mainstream markets. By the way, there are really eVTOLs, EV takeoff landing. Flying cars do exist. However, I don't think that the common person, the common man will not be able to afford it on a mainstream level. So, mainstream level, everyone still needs to fly. And with such a compelling price, 50 pesos, 43 pesos, 38 pesos. Think about it in the long run. If you believe that in the next 5 years, we don't even need to think about 5 months. If in the next 5 years, these airplanes will function as normal, meaning We have travelers going into the Philippine market. Therefore, there's an opportunity. Now, that opportunity could be a 100% opportunity, but it could only be a 35% opportunity as well, depending on your short-term or long-term time frame. So I personally think that this Cebu Pacific shares are a buy. And actually I told you guys at 39 pesos before. I felt that, Cebu Pacific hasn't risen, but it will go recover eventually. So yeah, I just think that you buy SEB, you get a free trip to Japan or a free trip to USA. It depends on how long you want to invest in it. They have money printing machine on auto print. Yeah, that's why the money printing machine is not gonna end. What that means is that while the dollar might actually be a little bit stronger today because the dollar went up, the spike, right? 48.4 in the actual USD PHP market. Think about it in the first place. The reason why it went from 50 to 48.40 was because the dollars was being printed. So do you want to have dollars? Do you want to have pesos? People sometimes would want to have cash, but not too much cash because they want to deploy that cash to some assets that they feel are valuable. So that asset could be a cash flow machine or even a cash 10% stability machine is better than nothing. So I'd say that the stock market will not super duper go up, but it will not go super duper down. I think that's it. Is tech a long-term buy? Personally speaking, so tech is saying 5G, right? But the thing about 5G is that, or satellite networks, all of these can actually be solved not necessarily by tech alone. And so from a long-term perspective, if you're not the only one, you're not a TOO, you're not a priority. Because for me, a long-term buy is something that is a two. I talk about it. You have to be a Tina, a two, a Tam. Nobody has to be able to do what you're doing. There should be no alternative. You should be the only one. There should be a total addressable market that is so big. Actually, I don't look too much nowadays on valuation. Now, you could say, oh, but the really good, the one, like example, let's say we know that NVIDIA is really the core, Qualcomm and NVIDIA, the likes of Ericsson. All right. Sometimes, you get the value, like Nokia is cheap and it's also a 5G leader. But other times, like NVIDIA is expensive, but you know that it's a leader. So that's why I think from a long-term perspective, if it's 5G naman that you really are after, there's a lot abroad. Ceragon, diba, already tripled. There's Lattice Semiconductor, there's Insigo. You can buy space satellites like GLAT and GSAT. It's also the same, also with 5G solutions. So I think that the long-term buys are very few in the Philippines. Philippines seems to be just a trading market. Is Awesome10X promotion still available? Nope. It was until February 12, 2021. So right now, we're back to 10,000 peso for 6 months. Is DWC a buy? DWC is twofold. So think about DWC in realm of reopening. So why reopening? Because they own hotels, hospitality industry. No matter what you do, hotels are really blank. Like how many people are actually doing their vacations right now? Very little. Now, on one hand, you've got that very lack of hospitality industry is really bad right now, but it's also a low base. Meaning, once we recover, once there's a travel revenge, it's going to benefit your DWC just as much as it will then benefit your Cebu Pacific and your Macro Asia, to be honest. Now, from a long-term perspective, you also have to value yourself that DWC is owning right now, acquiring assets within Palawan, Boracay, Siargao Island. Those are like the Philippine top destinations of travel. So those values, those land properties could actually go up in time, if not already up. So I think DWC is more of a twofold play: property revaluation and hospitality reopening. Are bank stocks viable for the long term? I personally believe that Fintech is a disruptor and bank stocks are not the best long-term buys. I prefer that you go Awesome10X with Fintech. Ma'am, may doggy coin ka ba? It looks like these are memes. Doggy and Bitcoin, okay pa rin ba kahit na 50K na? Meme stocks, meme cryptos, Personally, of course, I prefer that you'd have Bitcoin rather than doggy coin. But that's a case to case basis, right? Some people prefer trade, some people prefer invest, so that's twofold. From an investing standpoint, you're better off with Bitcoin because you've got the institutions with you. There's no institutions playing with doggy. Like, it's a trade. Kahit ang laki ng utang ng SEB, mga flights na hindi pa na-refund, you've got no choice eh. Think about it. If I'm gonna fly to the Philippines, how am I gonna do it? Think about it. States, how are they gonna fly? You think that all the airlines will have to just shut down? Is it gonna go to zero? At some point in time, the government's gonna intervene, right? So if you ask me, there are companies that are just too big to fail because they are infrastructure. These are infrastructure essentials. Tourism is such a big industry. You will cripple the entire hospitality system, the entire restaurants, the casinos. It's not about saving an airport or an airplane. You have to think of it as a big GDP industry, as a big infrastructure. Are you telling me that no one is able to fly in the next 5 years? Are we gonna be back to the horse era? Wala pa rin ba tayong mga ability to fly? I don't think so. So whether the governments are gonna pay for these refunds or they're allowing GG Summit to borrow money and convert those borrowings into shares of SEB, that is what you call privatization of some assets, right? So privatization, public traded, ganun. Tech is too low now kasi. Well, in the Philippines kasi, I'll tell you what, just because an asset is low doesn't mean it's gonna go up. That's what I've learned the hard way, by the way. Being low, even if it's 10 cents to $1, is not a recipe for it to go up. The Benjamin Graham model is not really as sound as before. The question is, are you growing your sales? Are you earning some income? And are you really the only one that can solve that problem? Because at the end of the day, there are companies that will be just gone for the next 5 to 10 years. Admit it to yourself, there are companies that are irrelevant. Think about it. In the Chinese na lang, in the Chinese market, there's no such thing as cash. They use Alipay. They use WeChat for WePay. Now, if the banks are being disrupted by the cashless world, diba? You can use GCash. You can use PayMaya. More and more people use cashless transactions. So, if you think about it, will the banks ever earn as much money as before? Think about it once, twice, thrice. Because people are thinking, hey, maybe I can just borrow my money instead of credit cards through a GCash. That's happened in US, in China. I ask you another question, guys. Secular trend-wise. Do you actually think that all these retail malls will have 100,000 foot traffic like before? Or will it be an inevitable trend that we're all gonna shop online? Think about it, because these are the more important questions. It's not about the valuations. So I ask you, is 38 pesos SM Prime or 40 pesos SM Prime expensive given the trend that we can shop online? Those are what's important. Just because a company is 10 pesos before and it's now 1 peso doesn't mean a thing. SSI was 12, it's now 1. The only reason why you believe, why I think that SSI can recover is not because it's 1 peso. You ask yourself whether SSI has fully transformed digitally doing omni-channel acquisitions. Because if they didn't do that, it's obsolete. It's going to be obsolete. That's what happened with what? Neiman Marcus abroad had to close down. The only relevant part of Neiman Marcus was their online. They had to close down that mall. What happened to the mall? Got bought by somebody else. The titles of the land, diba? If you have a property and you can't even rent it out, or even if you're renting it out, it's like 50% yield, less, discount, left and right. What's going to happen to your income? Diba? Think about those things. Those are the relevant questions, not what happened last quarter, last year, last 10 years. It's not about the past. It's about the future. Where is your business going? Now you could argue, my business is COVID pandemic proof. All right, prove it. That's all. The market will just ask, can you prove it? Jollibee said, I can deliver. All right, let's see you deliver. Execute before you talk. That's it. Ma'am, may stock po ba sa PSE na nag-gain ng 20x in a year? Kasi si dito, 15x na, and people think it's gonna go 100 pesos at the end of 2021. That's a problem in the Philippines. I think that the true 10x names are not residing in the Philippines. So, I don't know, at the end of the day, people believe what they believe. I prefer in cleaning the world rather than disrupting Philippine telecommunications. So, iba-iba rin eh. At the end of the day, some people might think, let's disrupt PLDT. Let's disrupt Globe. La 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 la. Diba? That's their goal. But to me, I'd rather have a bigger goal. No, I want to really solve pollution problem. I want to solve climate change. That's why in the Philippines, I laud Ascen's effort. Do solar farms. Do these energy climate solutions, right? For the Philippine market. At least we have a company doing that. Example, I laud the fact that URC, Universal Robina Corporation, is one of the few companies in the Philippines that actually has a waste-to-energy plant. They've got the biomass. All the chippies that you eat, all the piatos that you eat, diba, it comes from corn. The electricity of that comes from the biomass. 5 years, 2015, 6 years ago, they did that. I preciously pay for innovation and technology. Because that's me. I'm not trying to force you to think like me, but that's me. What I believe is going to propel the 10x move, the 20x move, the 50x moves sustainably, you have to really change the world. Not just the Philippines. Talking about the world. Okay? All right. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.